Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Sadafara Pillai, on behalf of School of Sciences, PP Savani University, welcome you all on our fifth day of online faculty development program on research methodology. So today we have with us our speaker, Dr. Ketan Kuperkar. Dr. Ketan Kuperkar is an assistant professor in physical chemistry at Department of Applied Chemistry, Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, SVNIT, Surat, since 2013. He has completed his PhD in the year 2010 from Department of Chemistry, Veer Narmad South Gujarat University. He was awarded Research Associateship by Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences, BRNS, BARC, Mumbai. After that, he completed his postdoctoral research fellowship from High Energy Accelerator Research Organization, J-Park, Japan, in the year 2013. His research field of interest is in surfactant and polymer science and computational chemistry. He has delivered several expert talks on his research field in varied foreign countries. He has been a member of Asian Society for Colloid and Surface Science and Indian Society for Surfactant Science and Technology, Kolkata, India. He has published around 40 research articles and 4 book chapters. Till date, he has guided 2 PhD and 25 master students and is guiding 7 PhD students. So let us welcome Dr. Ketan Kuperkar for a wonderful talk on laboratory safety today. Over to you, sir. Dr. Ketan, your mic is off. Please turn on your mic.
Yeah. Thank you, Sadafara, for introducing me. Okay, I'm just trying to just let me know whether you are able to see the screen of my presentation. Just let me know.
Yes.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, Dr. Ketan, we can see your screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we can see.
Yeah. So shall I start then?
Yeah, please. We can start.
Yeah. Uh, so just in case if you are not able to see the slide or something, just let me know. Okay. So by the time, okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Sadafara Pillai and Dr. Sheetal for inviting me to present a talk on laboratory safety. Um, well, I'm Ketan Kuperkar from Applied Chemistry Department, SVNIT, Surat. Uh, I was just going through the number of the list of the participants, and I found that there are several faculties, and I'm very much glad that most of them are like from different universities and colleges as participants. I have found that few of them are from the students category also. So I'm very much pleased that the fraternity has compiled or comprised of like both the cadre of the participants as students as well as the faculty. So a very warm afternoon. After it's lunchtime, definitely few of them might feel bored to attend. But my topic being the most interactive and the most basic one is being ignored. I don't know why, but it's been ignored by most of them. I may not be using the word by all of them, but definitely it is being ignored by, or it's not being paid attention not while as it though it is a very much important component in curriculum. Uh, well, to start up with the laboratory, today's topic, laboratory safety. I will be giving my brief introduction. I come from this place. Uh, I'm placed here since 2013. This is my institute, SVNIT, which ranks 54 amongst engineering colleges in India, according to NIRF ranking. This is my wonderful department, Applied Chemistry Department. And if time permits at your end, please do visit us. Well, to begin with, the simplest topic of laboratory safety. So it is very much crucial. Uh, yeah, the objective of my talk would be comprising of the basic and very much important topics or points covering laboratory design. I'll be making you visit virtually through online mode uh, to your laboratory. Uh, I'll be giving an instances of several laboratory hazards, also which includes some accidents, um, risk assessment, the laboratory safety management, very important and tricky key messages to take away with you. And finally, I would be concluding the session by giving a sincere acknowledgement to the organizers. Well, to begin with, the laboratory safety. Now, laboratory safety, anything when it comes to a word called as safety, definitely it's not a one person's job. It's a teamwork. And definitely when a prefix is added as laboratory, definitely it has to deal with parameters, uh, several parameters. Now, this parameters is not only been handled manually, but definitely it has to do with the infrastructure as well. So laboratory design and management, this is an hidden and the most important criteria which fulfills the topic of today's talk, that is laboratory safety. In addition to this, responsible supervisors or the lab attendants or the lab technicians which together as a team works out for laboratory safety. In addition to this, definitely those personnel should be well trained. So I'll be discussing something related to the training measures of those uh, faculties or those persons who are given in charge of handling the laboratory. The safety manuals which I'll be mentioning about in order to control or to have a grip over
Dr.
the
Ketan, sorry
yes.
to interrupt you. There is a lot of disturbance in your voice. I think the mic is not properly placed.
1 minute, huh? One
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, please.
Mm, well, the signal is full, Sadafara. Are you able to hear me now?
Actually, your voice is clear, but I think the mic was, maybe shaking or something. It was creating disturbance.
So now is it or
Yeah,
clearly audible?
yes, it is clearly audible now.
Okay, and then let me know whether you are able to see the screen or not.
Yeah, we are able to see.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very
Yeah.
much. Okay, so covering this aspect of laboratory safety, definitely it is not a one person's job and it is dependent on several other factors or parameters, and amongst them the most important one is the laboratory design and the what we say in other terms is the infrastructure of the laboratory, along with its management, how to make the laboratory work at its best. In addition to this, definitely the responsible person who handles or who takes charge of all the laboratories, the supervisor or the lab in charges, play a very important role as in maintaining or in making the laboratory work very much safe. In addition to this, the most important backbone of the laboratory, those are the personnel, which we address them as laboratory assistant or laboratory technicians. They must be highly skilled or trained. Now, based on this, definitely I'll be discussing again some some safety manuals also, And finally, the risk management also will be addressed. So definitely, from my point of view, it is the laboratory safety does not compile only with all these parameters, but it also deals the with all these parameters obvious, and then it goes well. Uh, so I'll take up one after the other. The general protocol, what every laboratory, when it is being initiated in terms of infrastructure, follows uh, a basic setup rule, and that rule is that any sort of laboratory, whether it is being constructed in academics or for diagnostic or healthcare mm, uh, facility or purpose, it should be designed at the level 2 or above from ground. Uh, just in for the now, you may understand why it is to be constructed or why it is to be organized or set up at a level of 2, just with the precaution of not getting damaged through several natural calamities, for example, the flood. Okay. So now laboratory design. Now, when laboratory design comes, the basic aspect is what we understand by the word laboratory is not a room, a small room comprising of 4 walls and 1 ceiling, but it has to be designed something differently with in terms of or giving an account to the safety measures. So the first preliminary thing what we have to see for a laboratory design is a small reception counter where anyone can approach uh, peaceably and can address his or her purpose of visiting the laboratory. Now, in addition to this small reception area, definitely the laboratory comprises of the major portion which we say as the experimentation area where the candidate or the student has to perform some experiments there, prepare sampling, via preparing sampling, performing some experiments and all, and then later on with the table work. Uh, the most safe, the most important parameter for a laboratory to be designed must, in terms of safety, is that it should have minimum 2 exits, and that too with high ceiling and adequate ventilation with natural light coming throughout. Natural light, yes, it depends. If not, but yes, adequate ventilation is must for a laboratory, and in that aspect only it has to be designed well. Now, every two laboratories should have a dispatch area or a junction area where, in any sort of conditions, those 2 areas or those 2 places, what we say as laboratory, can be conjoined to address and share any sort of work. Now, definitely a laboratory purpose. Laboratory do have several sophisticated instruments or some small set of setups which need some special space, and therefore some separate instrument cabins or rooms should be given privilege. Now, later on, once the experiments are done, the reports or the results, what are to be delivered or what are to be filed, needs some table work, and therefore it has there should be a separate workstation or a platform where the files could be piled up. In addition to the laboratory design, there should be a service room attached where the lab assistants or the lab attendants can prepare their sample solutions, can also make the vendors to come and visit some sort of instruments which are under maintenance. So definitely those service rooms are to be also designed well by during the infrastructure of laboratory is being put forth. So now the basic general observation when you visit any laboratory is, first of all, you see several safety signs. Now, these safety signs are an alarming signals or alarming alerts uh, shown to any any person or any individual which can make him aware of all the possible dangers which he could face in the laboratory. Now, ranging from, you may see this particular stack of different cartoons or different animated figures where you can have animal hazard or sharp instrument or heat glasswares, because all the laboratory have different components. So they do have glassware components, they do have chemical components piled up with the electrical works uh, or the fire alarming system. And in addition to this, there are several laboratories considering they deal in the work. They are like biohazard, chemical hazard, physical hazard, which I will be discussing later on also. But the last column, the last row is very much interesting, and every individual who works in laboratory or who comes in contact with the laboratory or who deals with the laboratory work has to follow the instructions, that is biohazard or laser radiation hazard or radioactive hazard or explosive hazard. Now, towards the extreme right hand side of this particular screen, I have mentioned about ISO 3864 safety sign format. The International Standards Organization has framed this safety sign formats in general rather than having this entire compiled step. In general, they have just put up these four symbols as warning sign, the mandatory sign, the prohibition sign, and the safety information sign. Now, based on this, yes, definitely. In addition to all this alarming sign or the symbols, several laboratories do have the safety posters pasted on the walls, and this safety posters mean a lot when you work as an individual, as a responsible individual in a laboratory. Now there are several symbols which says that you need to wear goggles or spectacles while working so that the fumes does not directly come in contact with your eyes. No open footwears. The dustbins should be used to dispose of different kinds of waste. Definitely no eatables. Wearing gloves, wearing aprons. All these things are different. Design like safety posters which you often see in your laboratories or in any of the big laboratories wherever you visit. It is highly recommended that to every individual, those who are working in all this kind of different and laboratory environment, please do ensure that this kind of posters are highly encouraged in order to promote the safety measures in order and to avoid different accidents or unexpected accidents. Now, yes, the most commonest notification what you see on the as a safety measures on the doors or on the entrance of the laboratory is no unauthorized persons are allowed or permitted to enter the laboratory premises, and neither this laboratory is a place where friends, children, or animals are entertained. So definitely, everyone has to take precautions about not entering or not allowing or not permitting the wrong person to enter into the laboratory, because that's not a place of entertainment. Apart from this, now laboratory premises, when once you enter, the kind of ambience, what you imagine at the very first sight is, it should be having a high ceiling, unlike a normal flat system or a normal row house system. The ceiling shouldn't be so low. It should be very much high so that the vapors or the fumes which are being liberated out immediately. They go, being very light, they go to an extreme height, and then through proper or good ventilation or exhaust system, they are being expelled out from the laboratory. Now, when you talk about the walls and the ceiling, definitely, as I mentioned, unlike the normal flat or normal bungalow-like system, they should be colored definitely by washable and glossy paints so that those laboratories, specifically the organic chemistry laboratories from where a lot of fumes are generated, the wall becomes dull after a long usage, and so it could be cleaned or could be washed using some disinfectants. Same way, it should be very much easy and to clean. And yes, absolutely, there shouldn't be any false sealing in the system because false sealing having major component of calcium carbonate in it undergoes several reactions in several accidents. It has been found that the calcium degrades itself and as a result it catches some fire accidents. Now, in terms of the laboratory, when we talk about, you have to discuss the most important component, that is the flooring of the laboratory. Now, flooring of the laboratory shouldn't be a marble one. It should be a granite, most probably, if possible. It should be granite. Um, uh, and it could be like it should be easily cleaned using several disinfectants. Now, as soon as you enter the laboratory through the main instructions, watching all the important symbols or the alert symbols or the posters, definitely you land up with several platforms which you say it as bench tops. Now, when you see as a bench top, several decades ago, they were being made from like wood setup, wood furniture. Over it, it was like a glass platform was placed. Later on, the glass platform was gradually been replaced by the granite. Yes, definitely, it is a good alternative to glass. But there are several nowadays, several big laboratories and several good laboratory infrastructures have started using the bench tops, which we oftenly address it as modular bench tops. Now, why modular bench tops when you discuss something related to laboratory safety? Now, definitely, it is non-porous. It is very, very easy to clean up using several disinfectants. It is resistant to chemicals. Yes, it is the granite platform what is used in the kitchen of your home is somewhat different than the granite quality which is being used by the modular furniture. Yes, they have been tested. They are resistant to chemicals, and yes, absolutely, the platform should not have wood or steel, as several chemicals being so very harsh onto these surfaces may go corrode and later on may degrade itself. This is the slide which shows you an example of benches or the working space, what is meant for the laboratory technicians or for the research scholars or for the undergraduates or the postgraduate students who get the chance to work in such kind of laboratories. Now here somewhere at the top you can easily see this fume mode having a well-versed equipped exhaust panel which expels out the unnecessary, unwanted, harmful gases throughout the system, somewhere at the top, where it is released, so that the room environment or the laboratory environment is having minimal amount of the gases or uh, less amount, or you cannot say exactly that it's been there is no such harmful gas, but yes, minimal amount of gases is left out. Now, what else you observe apart from the furniture, apart from the sign alert symbols or the posters? What else you observe are the different size of bottles which has several chemicals into it. Now, I have encircled here some interesting um, part of the bottles which everyone which few of them might be knowing. I'm very much sure about it, which only few of them must be knowing about the fact why this has been encircled. Now, When you entered into a laboratory, definitely you see several different sizes of bottles comprising of flammable or combustible components or the liquids or the solvents. In addition to this, several acids are there, several bases are there, oxidizers, reducers, non-reactive salts are also there. Either they are in solid as solid powders or they are in liquid or gas condition. Now, the purpose why I have encircled this kind of different colored corks of this kind of chemical bottles is the next slide. Now, there is a definite science behind specific color for the bottle caps. Now, being unaware of the fact, today I would like to let every one of you know that different color symbolizes the different acids which are being placed or which are present in those kind of bottles. So if it is red, it is the concentrated solution of nitric acid is present. Nitric acid. If it is blue, hydrochloric acid. If it is yellow, sulfuric acid. If it is brown, then acetic acid. White, then phosphoric acid. If some bases are there, okay, which is this kind of cork which is placed upside down, that this shows the base which is present, that is ammonium hydroxide, which is not that deadly in comparison to the other concentrated acids which are listed. Now, in addition to this, when you are asked to prepare the solutions, aqueous solutions, where definitely you would be needing water to prepare aqueous solutions of all this kind of acids, you need not to use again the same color caps for closing the bottle. You can, instead of those different these colors, you may use different color caps. This could be clear or black or orange or purple caps could be used for packing for closing the chemical bottles. Now this nitric acid which is to be capped by a red cap, the sulfuric acid which is to be capped by yellow color, the hydrochloric acid which is to be capped or closed by blue color cap. Has definite reason for having this particular kind of colors in it. Uh, and that being plastic made from plastic, definitely they need to be replaced as and when they become very much brittle or they become very much old. Yes, because continuous fumes, they get liberated out from all these concentrated acids, and depending on their molecular weight and their uh, reactivity, they degrade the surface of this cap, and as a result, in order to prevent all these chemicals from being contaminated, being so very pure and costly, you cannot afford them to purchase now and then. So to protect them, yes, you need to replace their caps according to their colors which are mentioned. Now, when you see the chemical bottles, it is not only the color caps which are to be seen. Definitely, um, the most important part which everyone has to notice when you deal with all this kind of chemical bottles is the chemical labels. Now, these chemical labels are being printed by absolute manufacturer who is manufacturing and providing this or providing this chemical. This particular label, what you can see in this picture, show every small detail regarding the chemical which is being packed or which is being there in that bottle. So right from the name of the chemical to the purity of the chemical, one very interesting number by which every chemical is being known is this class number, that is chemical abstract series number. It's been very much unique to every chemical component, and by through which you may procure from the vendor. In addition to this, the name, address, and emergency phone number of the manufacturer is also mentioned on this particular label, which this particular label also mentions about the kind of different hazards if in case you get exposed prolonged if you get a prolonged expose to this chemical. Right from its precautionary measures are also mentioned, first aid instructions are also mentioned, and the most interesting point is how to handle them properly and where to store this kind of chemical. It is not, and nowhere it is mentioned, and nowhere it is the case that any chemical which you procure can be can be stored as and when and wherever you wish to do so. No, several chemicals are to be stored in presence of light. Several are to be stored in presence of dark, that means in absence of light. Several are to be stored in a cool environment, that few of them are to be stored in refrigerators, few of them are to be stored in open environment. So all these kind of storage instructions are also mentioned by the manufacturer who supplies the chemical. So for example, I have shown here one label mentioning sodium hydroxide 50% of its solution. That means it has got aqueous environment. You may see here the chemical abstract series number, the class number, which is unique to it. The symbol, this which shows it's been toxic. It's not been toxic, but yes, you need to handle it very much carefully. The chemical name, its physical and health hazards if not handled properly. If And also the chemical company which supplies this particular chemical along with its contact number. Now, few of the I have mentioned few of the health hazards on in this slide. Now, several chemicals are carcinogen. That means overexposure or a continuous exposure of such chemicals um, can develop some cancerous cells or can have some cancerous tissues getting developed in the body. Several are being very toxic. There it is written like highly toxic. Highly toxic does not mean that all of them are carcinogenic. Yes, the third one is very much interesting, and that is they are highly corrosive. Corrosive, that means they are very much strong enough to undergo oxidation of the metal surface and then later on develop some pits or holes leading to the roughness of the surface, ultimately corroding it. Reproductive hazard may overexposure or continuous exposure to such chemicals um, destruct the or make the or raises the impotency in any individual. Several chemical or the most commonest health hazard, which has been written is the irritant. And now this irritant is like several individuals are allergic, are skin allergic. Several of them are being allergic to a different kind of air even. So, giving an account to all these health hazards, several precautionary measures are also being mentioned in case if you get to be exposed to a prolonged to this kind of chemical. Now they mentioned very much strictly that in no case any of the individual should follow all these things. So precautionary measures, like few of them very much basic, I have mentioned here. Do not breathe their vapors or open them in well ventilated areas, or do not store near combustible materials. Keep them airtight and closed when not in use. Avoid direct contact with the skin. Wash hands thoroughly with soap and water after handling. Remove and wash contaminated clothing promptly. So there are several precautionary measures which are being exemplified or mentioned on the chemical labels on each and every bottle, just for the safety measures to an individual who deals with all this kind of chemicals. Now, in addition to this label, the common signal words or the common sign you may find out is danger, which may cause immediate or serious injury in later stages to death even. Some of them they don't come up with the sign of danger, but they come up with the sign of warning, and they have this potential to cause serious injury. In extreme case, yes, they do lead to death. But in said most of the chemicals, they come up with a potential to cause moderate injury. But yes, in an extreme case, um, they do not lead to death in most of the cases. So caution is um I will not use the word that caution are safe, but yes, you need to take precautions in all the three kinds of labels when you deal with chemicals. In addition to this, you may find all these colorful labels or stickers onto individual the chemical bottles, ranging from if it is an explosive, it will be like explosive, flammable gas, non-toxic, poisonous gas, flammable liquid, so try to keep away from all the flammable sources. Organic peroxides, oxidizers, dangerous when wet, that means you don't have to expose it into the hygroscopic or moisture kind of environment, so keep it in a dry place. Flammable solid, so this kind of radioactive, corrosive, so miscellaneous dangerous substances, so spontaneous combustible. So ranging from all these different kind of symbols, yes, you need to be very much careful. You need to be very much alert in using this chemical, all this kind of chemicals. Yes. So now from where and how these labels came into picture. Now, two setups or two association systems, National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, and HMIS, the Hazardous Material Identification System, have put forth this kind of label system covering or giving account two different parameters. The one is the color and the other is the number. So if you can see here, the diamond shaped label is there having four different colors and three boxes are there, empty boxes are there. Now these empty boxes, they keep a number from 0 to 4, and the color indicates different modality or the different range of the performance of the chemical. Yes. So giving an account for health hazard, if I count from the very first one, health hazard. So you need to be very much careful while handling all this kind of chemicals, which has got only a blue kind of uh, diamond label. Yes, of course, you have to see the number arranging from 0 if it is showing in this box. If it is 0, then it will be showing no hazard. If it is 1, then slightly hazard. 2, that means it's dangerous to be handled. 3, it is extremely dangerous, and 4, it is deadly. In addition to this, 5, which is red in color, yes, you have different precautionary steps or the warning measures, like you need to be handling all the flash points below this Fahrenheit, or else this will get exploded. In terms of reactivity, which is showing yellow in color, which is depicted in yellow in color, has got several other statements, like other numbers, like from 0 to 4 stable. If it is 1, normally stable. 2, the stability decrease, it's unstable. Third, it's explosive. And fourth, may detonate. And the fourth class is the special hazard, which is uniquely being designed, and it's not being used for every class of chemicals, absolutely. But for W, if it is showing in white, it is water reactive. For example, sodium metal, it comes with the white logo. The If it is OX, that means oxidizer, and if this is the symbol, then it's the radioactive compound which is there. Um, present in the chemical bottle. So it is the National Fire Protection Association and Hazardous Materials Identification System, which has well defined that this color and number coded label system in order to make an individual aware of all the hazardous effects which, if not maintained, if not been handled very much thoroughly. So now, once you observe all these things, the first important thing comes into picture related to laboratory system, laboratory safety is its management. Now, when it comes to a management comes up with a word called as teamwork, and it is not a single person's job. So, responsible person will be the safety officer. The trained person or the personals or the staff would be the lab assistants or the lab technicians who will be the major component who contribute majorly to this laboratory system. Uh, they must be given enough training to detect or to evaluate the potential risk in performing the experiments which is to be given to the students, or and equally they have to have knowledge of their safety procedures. Now, safety manuals are also to be defined, that is laboratory specific, and this is the point where the faculties are given maximum account because the safety manuals or the laboratory specific manuals are being designed generally by the by the faculty. Standard operating procedures where the definite way of handling the instruments which are there present in the laboratory are to be like well merged, calibrated, and they and all of them must be operated with following proper given instructions. The proper chemical and glassware storage also is a very important management criteria where in nowhere in no look, sparing no single time you can get all the desired or the required glassware or the chemical if it is being properly maintained or stacked. The waste management is one of the finest important, the crucial topic, which I'll be dealing in this today's talk, where we play the most ignorant role and where we do not give priority to this waste management system when we talk about laboratory safety. So I'll be discussing this particular point in detail in today's talk as well. Now, in addition to all this laboratory safety management, most important topic comes into picture is cleaning or maintenance part. Now, when you talk about maintenance, it has to be cleaned on daily basis. Say, for example, the bench tops or the platforms where the student on daily basis they perform their experiments. The floors where are to be cleaned on daily basis. On weekly basis, yes, of course, or on monthly basis, the ceiling and walls can be taken into account where they could be cleaned uh, using some good soap solutions. The others, yes, definitely the refrigerators or freezers or the storage areas where should be also being thoroughly maintained so that they could be used when needed. Now, this cleaning part does not mean that only just cleaning and moving out. It has to be recorded and with the cleaning staff in proper way so that in any case or in any case of mishap, any different kind of notification can be regenerated if needed. Now, general safety equipment. When you talk about the laboratory must be very much equipped with general safety measures, and few of them I have exemplified on in this slide. The first major ones onto the ceiling or onto the main entrance is the fire safety. The fire alarm which you are able to see along with this particular fire cylinder the firefighter, which has been accompanied by different set of dustbins where you can dispose of your waste. Now, In addition to this, I'm very much sure that not all laboratories must be having the shower and the eye washer, which is the most important particle, which is the most important component of a laboratory, in order to avoid any mishap in the laboratory. Now here, this is PPE kit, that is the polypropylene or polyester based the personal protection equipment which comprises of gloves, the goggles, the aprons, the shoes, and all these are what together compile to general safety equipment where everyone has to follow definite pattern in order to have safety measures working while working in the laboratory. Now, once this has been done, uh, you have the most. I am showing this particular picture as the hand protector, which hardly. I'm not sure, but even I was unaware of the fact that this is to be used as hand protector while you work in a laboratory. Now, this is how, because unless and until I did not come across this picture, I was handling the beakers with bare hand only. But it is been prescribed that no one has to use bare hand. Yes, absolutely. We used to have it the gloves, but this kind of head protectors must be provided to all those people who work in the laboratory. Now, this particular slide shows some good laboratory practices, which probably well equipped or well furnished sophisticated laboratory must have the projector facility in order to give the demonstration to all the students before they commence on to their respective practicals. The spectacle cabinets, which gives you, which is a tool to protect the eye while performing the practicals. This is the distribution of the equipment where in different kind of trays and different size of trays you can place different glassware and different ingredients or the different materials which are relevant be important to perform the experiment. In addition to this, while performing several experiments onto an electronics level or onto circuit level, flexicams should be placed. Bunsen burner screen, where only few of labs amongst where I had visited, only few of the laboratories they do have this kind of screen, or else they keep some book material to stand by there like that. In addition to this, hardly I have ever seen this kind of yellow line which has a great resemblance that just in case if it is not functioning, no one has the right to enter and touch the platform or the table, modular table where the experiment is, where no one is there like that. So this slide shows you some standard safety practices. These are the do's where from the very first one. This technician or the student or the researcher is wearing the full-fledged PPE kit while performing several experiments in chemical hood. While the second picture shows you about this lady who is working or operating an oven or incubator where she has placed an asbestos laid obstacle to keep this door open. This is the correct way where or else this door which is warm may come and may affect you. Continuous washing of hand while performing the experiment or once the practical is over is a very good habit. So this particular pictures are all like standard safety practices. This is the person who has wear or covered himself through cover his body through the PPE kit. The dustbin, which is been designed and labeled as biohazard, So only related to those ingredients can be disposed of. The gas cylinders which are being used in the laboratory are to be changed, and this is how these are the different rules which everyone has to follow in order to have a safer practice while performing experiments in the laboratory. But not, what about the don'ts? Now, don'ts, when it comes, it becomes very much interesting, and we are very much practicing these don'ts instead of do's. Now, when you say about don'ts, um, in laboratory, as I mentioned in one of my earlier earlier slides, it is not a place of entertainment. So definitely, you should not be having any tables, or you should not be eating anything there or chewing there. Rather, and even also this particular picture, you should not be applying several makeups or something in the laboratory. So these are the severe practices which no one has to follow very much strictly. They have to avoid all these things. So what are the different kinds of general hazards in the laboratory? These do's are not being sincerely followed, and don'ts are being followed like anything. Now there could be several mishaps, and amongst them, few of them they are listed here. The most commonest mishap is like catching fire or breakage of glassware or chemical spill or gas cylinders getting bursted out, extreme heat or cold environment which is not being controlled, chemical hazard, biological hazard, and radiation hazard. There are several others which are like which might occur just in case if do's are not followed and don'ts are followed. Now this is one of the pie chart, which is like proposed by Harvard Health Medical Institute, where it showed that 57%, the major was like having people who were working in laboratory uh, faced the problems related to sprains, stress, bruise, and fractures, whereas several other percentage was less in comparison to sprains and strain, and the 6%, which is very much interesting, is labeled as others. Now this others is exponentially growing. Now where it is exponentially growing, which I will be discussing in the next coming slide after few slides, and then you would be understanding why this 6% is increasing drastically. Uh, so this is the pie chart which explains you several injuries which is happening in the laboratory. Now, laboratory hazards, when you talk about them, they are of different three types: the physical hazard, the chemical hazard, and the biological hazard. Now, example of physical hazard, as you can see here, the needles, what you use it should not be, you cannot recap them, or if you are discarding them, have a proper way of discarding them by stripping off its tip. Also use specific waste disposal containers to discard definite laboratory items. You cannot use same disposal container for all common things what you are going to discard. For paper discarding, you have simple dustbin. For tissue paper discarding, you have the simple dustbin. But yes, for definitely gloves discarding, you cannot discard in the simplest dustbin. For needle or glassware which are broken, you cannot discard them in the simplest dustbin. There are several dustbins labeled accordingly where you have to discard them in order to avoid physical hazard. You can see here the person, this particular second picture which is striking out showing the cross mark. You can see here a needle is popping out. If he presses or if he holds this particular garbage bag by his manually, definitely it's going to pierce inside, and then he even doesn't know what sort of chemicals were there on its surface. So to avoid all this, definitely you need to follow, you need to minimize this physical hazards following several different specific waste disposal containers. Never directly handle broken glasses. Same way. Now here, very much interestingly, you need to make me sure, or you need to guess what is getting wrong here. Like, do you see anything wrong here? The first thing what I see is this lady or the lab technician who's working bare hand, and it's not been advisable at all where anyone should be working with bare hand. She must have worn the gloves. The, the thing is, the next slide will let you know what are the things which are wrong in this particular picture, and these were the pictures. You cannot place the syringe, you cannot place the needles in this on the platform as such. Definitely there are several setup boxes which are specially been designed to preserve all this kind of instruments or all this kind of setups in order to uh, avoid this kind of physical hazard. Now the second comes is the chemical hazard. Now chemical hazard, you may find out the difference in both the picture which I have mentioned here. The minor spill and the major spill. The minor spill, if it is not been addressed at that particular moment, it definitely grows up to a major spill. So you may find out, and then once if different kinds of bottles with different corks, yes, absolutely. Now this is a very fine picture where you can see several yellow color caps with red color, with black color, and all this if they spill off having and where different kinds of chemicals are preserved in them with different natures, definitely this is going to explode out once if it is not being cleared at that moment of at the minor spill level. Same way, biological spill. If you can see here, something has fallen down on the floor. Now, this person, what he has done is, he has placed the tissue paper uh, onto the floor, and with a pair of tongs, he has collected all those tissue papers, and then he has put in special designed bags to dispose it of. You cannot use any raw or untrained practice of just lifting a paper by bare hands. You may find this person or the technician is also wearing the gloves. So it's very much critical and crucial that any work related to laboratory has to be taken very much seriously and has to be exercised very much in disciplined way in order to maintain or in order to have a safer side. For example, another this particular slide shows you the biological hazard. Now you can see here there are several different sources from where this body or the technician can get affected too. Now this particular thing and this particular laboratory technician is handling the experiment barehanded with open eyes, with no mask on her face, so which gives direct contact, which makes the cells to come in direct contact with the chemicals which are hazardous. Instead of what was the correct way, that the laboratory technician would have worn the gloves, would have worn the mask and the glove and the eyeglasses or the goggles while performing the experiment to avoid any sort of contamination entering into the body. So so this is the chart now. You may find out that comparing the physical, biological and chemical hazard, and when you compare the practicals related to physics, chemistry and biology, maximum chances or the number is too high, of the number of accidents are too high in chemistry. So you can just try to understand or evaluate that how much critical it is to have or to know the perfect way of laboratory safety measures to understand. One of the examples which I have kept here is UCLA Lab, USA Fire, December 29, 2008. This was very much famous example which was put forth and which raised a serious concern for all the laboratories who were not obeying or following the laboratory safety precautions or the rules. Sherry Shanjay was supposed to use tertiary butyl lithium and she used a plastic syringe. The correct procedure was like to have it or to transfer it in a closed system, but this particular chemical, if it comes in contact with air, catches fire. Unfortunately, what happened was she did not try to do so, and she like she she got acquainted with severe burns. Unfortunately, her lab mate who was there accompanying in her lab while performing this practical was not trained to use the or was not trained how to use the safety shower or so. Otherwise, what she would have done is she would have placed sherry or the bones of sherry under the shower and her life could be saved. But unfortunately, on January 16th, she passed away. So now, based on this particular accident, now it was evaluated and the several different points came into picture which highlighted that what are the different factors by which the accidents are happening. It is the carelessness of the lab mates which is inviting the accidents to happen, the unsafe experiments, the inadequate equipment, the facilities, the inadequate instructions from the instructor or the lab technicians or the laboratory in charges, the ignorance or the misbehavior from student side or the poor laboratory management all together compile up and may contribute to such kind of severe laboratory accidents. Now, taking the reference of UCLA accident, um, several precautionary measures or the serious concerns were put forth was the first one was proper procedure for transferring the dangerous reagents. The second one was wearing the lab coats, and the third one is the safety shower procedure or the functioning, how to use it while in emergency. Now from here, I'll be discussing something related to general laboratory safety. Now, why does it matter to you? Just because of the fact, if you follow all the general safety measures, you're going to protect your work. Definitely, you're going to protect other lab mates of yours who are working together with you in the laboratory, all the cleaners or the visitors or the lab technicians or all other concerned authority who's working there with you in the laboratory, and most important is you who's there working. So in order to avoid any sort of laboratory accident, definitely safe like having or following general laboratory safety measures are very much important. Now, what does the law say? Now, according to Health Safety Work Act 1974, it says that you must work safely, you must not endanger others, and you must not misuse the safety equipment, or else there is a penalty of 2 years in prison and an unlimited fine. So based on this, there were several regulations which were put forth and were revised in 1999 and 2004. And based on this, the latest regulation which gives more emphasis on the laboratory measures or safety measures is in terms of risk assessment. Now, when you talk about risk assessment, no experiment is completely safe and without risk. Definitely, you need to take some sort sort of risk while performing the experiment, or else you won't land up to a desired or required result. And whatever you do it very much safe. So now how do risk assessment? Now how to do it? Now it's a kind of analysis which shows or which identifies the hazard level and how to take precautionary measures to minimize the risk. That's all. Nothing more than that. Risk assessment is just assessing the level of risk, that is hazard, when you perform anything in the laboratory and how to minimize it. But this is the most important factor which the judiciary system has put forth to every laboratory or to every organization who has got the laboratory setup. Now, what it does is identify the hazard and the evaluation risk, assess how likely it would be hazardous, decide what control measures would be there, and what would be the correct way to dispose it. Once this has been done, review it and then finally generate the data. So, reducing the risk is the first most important point is having a safer alternative, which we address it as green alternative. Now, when you talk about green alternative, obviously you need to have or you need to modify several experimental procedures. Once you meet up the green aspect of the experimental procedure, you can adapt that experiment and you can introduce it to your student or in the laboratory. Now, in addition to this, all protective measures are to be practiced and wearing appropriate PPE kit, that is personal protective equipment kit, uh, will serve the purpose of reducing the risk. In addition to this, frequent monitoring and reviewing is also needed, which is to be done from the which is an integral part of the laboratory functioning at its safer level by the higher competent authority. And this is like it has to be done following several steps, that inquiries at the departmental meeting, several discussions with the teachers, the lab technicians and the students, continuous evaluation of the schemes given to the students, then track the laboratory request form, the accident records, the safety inspections or the audits, keeping a record of the inspection checklist, and altogether standing committee on laboratory safety. Now, when you talk about laboratory safety or the control measures, the first
Dr. Ketan might have lost his connection. He will be joining soon.
whether you
Yes, sir. You lost your connection, sir. Ketan, sir. Still, the voice is not clear.
network connection. Hello, can anyone see this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir. Please
Okay,
share your
okay.
screen once again, sir. You
Yeah,
lost your
yeah.
connection in between.
Okay, okay. Wait, wait.
Yeah.
Can you see now, Sadafara? Can you let me know?
Yes, sir. It's visible now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you can please continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So, giving an account to the control measure, if you can see here the person is reading like material safety data sheet, that is MSDS, and this is to be learned in detail by every one of us who's dealing with laboratory research. Now, once this MSDS, what it gives you is the definite composition of the ingredient, what is present in the in the bottle. It gives its hazard identification, the first aid measures, the accidental release measures, how to handle and how to store this particular component, to the limits of the exposure, how to get protected in case if you get exposed to this chemical. Along with it, its toxicological information. So every bit single detail or the smallest detail of a given component which you address it as chemical is being provided by an MSDS sheet. So same way, in order of preference, there is another safer way to work in the laboratory, that is when using the either the glove box or the chemical hood. If you can see here, the nicest picture what I was able to collect it from the internet, that is in case when you are not using the fume hood, it is being closed. It has to be closed, and while using it, it doesn't have to be like kept open throughout. Only less than 18 inch of shutter should be raised just to work, so that just in case if anything goes wrong while setting up the reaction, nothing comes to you or on your body. You may find out the picture of this scientist or the researcher who is working, and he has also set up the hood in such a way that uh, the the what you say, the shutter is not opened full, it's been opened, or the sash what is opened is less than 18 inches. In addition to this, there are several other control measures which are to be used, and here I have shown with the pictures the gloves, the shoes, appropriate clothing, that is PPE kit, along with the gloves to protect yourself as a primary measure. Now, protecting yourself through gloves. Now, always do remember when you work in laboratory, must be the primary constituent as the main first safety measure which you should be putting it on, and that is gloves. Now, while talking on to telephone or using some instrument or leaving the laboratory, you need to discard this gloves. Now, when these gloves you discard, or whatever gloves you use it, they do have specific materials from which they are made of. You cannot have the gloves made up of anything. Yes, absolutely. The blue colored nitrile gloves are considered to be more suitable in comparison to the latex one, um, while you perform several experiments in laboratory. Yes, just in case if either or in both the gloves, if you find some small holes or tears, just discard them. And it should be discard in a proper way, not you cannot throw it here and there. So same way, laboratory hygiene. Now, laboratory hygiene, when you talk about, no eatables are to be entertained, not even the cosmetics or are to be addressed. In addition to this, we have a habit of like say, chewing or sucking pen or chewing pencils while you write something in the laboratory, that should be completely avoided. If you recall the contribution pie chart, which showed the 6% of the 6% which is growing exponentially, which is growing the mishaps exponentially, and this is the particular pictures which is being commonly practiced when the lab technicians fail to have an perfect eye onto the students. They do play some mischief by eating something or by applying some cosmetics or something which is not at all recommended for any individual if you work in a laboratory. Now, avoiding fires. Now, this is another safety measure which is to be practiced in any of the laboratories. Avoiding fires. Now, it is not that the any kind of cupboard work out as a storage cap as a storage unit to preserve those chemicals. No, not at all. You need to have several definitely specially designed storage cabinets for specific chemicals to preserve. Likewise, the fire do keep sharp, like fire minimize the fire damages. Now, to minimize the fire damages, what you could have is definitely you must have a fire alarm, or you should be able to hear it. And what you have to do is, not everyone has been undergoing through this, is a fire training annually. Now, I wonder that the most of us are hardly undergoing this kind of fire training, which is mandatory, which is a very important factor which everyone has to undergo. But it is it's miserable that we don't go and don't practice it, and not even to the and not such kind of practices being given to the students. So same way glasswares. Now if you see the picture onto the right side, the technician is discarding the glassware, and onto this particular dustbin it has been written like broken glass. It is not a regular dustbin in which you are discarding paper, because as I mentioned earlier also, there are several different dustbins designed to discard different things when you are there in the laboratory. You cannot have one common dustbin in which you can dump off everything into a single one, like that. Same way, in case of any spillage, yes, you need to clear it up very much at that very much moment, following the risk assessment. And yes, you need to inform the lab attenders also about this kind of chemical spillage, because just in case uh, you do it but you may not be knowing about its concentration, and so it is much better that you let them know as well. And once you are doing it, dispose that particular material as a toxic waste in the desired uh, dustbin. In addition to this, gas cylinders, yes, of course, as I mentioned in my earlier slide, once you work with the gas cylinders, formal training you need to undergo. It's not very much easy to, and it is not a normal cylinder what you use it at our domestic, or it's not a normal domestic cylinder. It's being used with several regulators. It has got a regulator setup where the pressure can be maintained. Now, cylinders definitely being so very heavy, they are to be changed when in use, and they want from moving it from one place to other place. You cannot roll them down. You need several, like some trolley like setups to move or to transfer such kind of cylinders from one place to others. The regulators and control equipment should be always being checked uh, by using such kind of cylinders. Now, for those who are using some cryogenics, that means using severe low temperature of about minus 30 degrees Celsius, minus 40 degrees Celsius, Yes, absolutely. Working out with cryogenics, it's not an easy task. It is it is very much tedious and it is very much tricky to use it. It is very much dangerous even to handle the system or the experiments while you perform some cryogenics onto it. So definitely a special training is also mentioned for all this kind of experiments along with the operation of gas cylinders and all fire extinguishers like this. So you cannot handle very much easy. You need several training, severe training, well-versed training before you do this kind of experiment. Now it's electrical equipment. Yes, every all sort of electrical equipments once which are very much portable into your laboratory are to be having must have the PET test done and never use such kind of any sort of defective equipment which may invite any kind of accident into the laboratory. In addition to all these effective measures, what I have mentioned to practice in the laboratory, the most important and the commonest parameter is to maintain the general cleanliness or the tidiness in the laboratory when you perform any sort of practical. Onto your workplace where you are standing to perform any experiment, that particular platform must be very much maintained clean, should be very much kept in or like well furnished in terms of those chemicals which are not to be used should be placed somewhere else, and everything like is to be it shouldn't be messed up with like very less space to work on just to avoid any kinds of accidents there. Now laboratory equipments, once if you are been using it thoroughly, following or practicing the perfect way of working, definitely it will not invite any sort of accident. Now handling chemicals is an again very much tricky and the crucial part, and it is always been mentioned onto the chemical bottles as well that handle the chemicals with care. Now, now, once you are here to understand this particular handling chemicals with care, dispose the chemicals or broken glass in approved containers only. You cannot, as I mentioned, you cannot use any uh, dustbins to discard them off. Now, in addition to this, store incompatible chemicals in separate storage areas, or else what would happen is, being incompatible in nature, definitely they are not going to be uh, like having a smooth environment and they would discard, they would like burst it off. So chemical storage, yes, must be stored in definite storage cabinets. Several, mm, as I mentioned, several flammable chemicals should be stored in refrigerators. Few of them are to be stored in freezers, or else they are like few of them, most of them are to be stored on shelves with retaining barriers. In addition to this, yes, storage fundamentals, you need to follow the MSDS very much thoroughly because they mention the place where to store them properly. So based on this, this is the place you may find out there are two pictures. Now here the organic solvents, you may find out a white carbo-like setup is placed where you can discard the generally, okay, before I explain this particular thing, generally what is being instructed to our student is once you do the practical, once they perform the titration, they are supposed to discard that particular titrated solvent directly into the stream. Now this discarded solution through its drainage system is not a healthy practice or it does not meet with the laboratory safety measures. It has to be discarded technically in a proper way. So if it is having organic solvents in it, or in order to preserve or some organic solvents, you can have this kind of setups. Like for example, flammable liquid storage is somewhere different. Still, containment cabinet is different, and definitely they are to be set up 2 to 3 inches above from the floor. So definitely. So this is how you are going to preserve or store the chemicals which you deal in the laboratory. There are several class of chemicals distinguished as class 1, class 2 and class 3 chemicals. Not more than 60 gallons of each and are to be placed in the cabinets, and then you need to label those cabinets like flammable or keep fire away or something, and it has to be around 2 to 3 inches above from the ground level. So, yes, the don'ts while storing up the chemical is avoid storing any chemical above your eye level. Don't store the incompatible chemicals together, or definitely they are going to invite an accident. Don't store chemicals near the source of heat or sunlight if they are not recommended to following the NSDS sheet. And in addition to this, yes, they are to be stored in hoods, and avoid storing anything on the floor, especially the glass bottles. So based on this, if anything goes wrong, if you don't obey all this, and then if you meet with some sort of accident, then the first aid comes into picture. Now, the preliminary first step of action is to have um, a wash or 10 minutes wash under water splash for any sort of particularly for not for all but maximum sort of accidents. So related to chemical splashes, in just in case if anything goes wrong and if any chemicals falls on you, it is recommended scientifically that it needs a wash with plenty of water for about 5 to 10 minutes. Just in case if it is bleeding, okay, then try that the glass or some foreign bodies do not come in contact with that wounded part, and in that wild case the medical practitioner is to be consulted, or the safety officer has to be consulted. So based yes, in other thing, in other case, in other very rare case, few of them are very much allergic to some sort of materials or the lab materials or to different kind of fumes or gases. So better in advance, you need to ensure the supervisor that you are being allergic to this kind of practical, so that they can have a clear watch and a serious watch on you while you do this kind of practicals. So yes, now this is one of the commonest thing where the students make the major mistake and invite accident is always have an habit to pour from large container to the smaller one. In addition, always add acid to water. If you add water to acid, acid being highly concentrated, it will not like the water which is of different characteristics to come into its environment, and definitely it will explode out. Also, before you work out in the laboratory, check for the glassware or some stars or some cracks. And the best way to hold any of the chemical bottle is to is to hold over its label while pouring it. Always use an habit of always have an habit of using the fume hoods when you are working with some experiments where fumes are expected, and when you heat something in the test tube, it is to be heated at an angle not directing to any of your lab mates, just as a measure of creating some mischief, but it has to be operated or it is to be practiced in exercised in such a way that you do not damage yourself nor you damage your lab mate. So same way, this particular slide also lets you know how to handle several different glasswares while you perform the experiment. it is the hot glassware, so this is the correct way of. But instead of them, majorly I have seen the students use their handkerchief to hold on their beakers, hot beakers, or the hot solutions of which is placed in the conical, which is an inappropriate way. This should be avoided. Yes, the most commonest, and I am very much sure that everyone would agree is, do not prepare solution by mouth. But we do not instruct like this. We do instruct the students to suck the solution using pipette by mouth only. And instead of that, it is an incorrect way, definitely. But instead of that, we must be using a rubber suction bulb to do so, but we don't ask them to practice the correct way. So yes, this particular third picture, what the girl is practicing is she's directly smelling, taking a smell of the chemical which is placed in an open container. Instead of that, this is the correct way, where you need to keep a hand over your nose, and in a small gap created between the two fingers, you need to inhale and try to gauge what kind of smell the chemical possesses. So do not test any chemical. Yes, I do recall my 11th and 12th days classes, laboratory classes, and I think I am sharing the most commonest example where where what is done, the moment you are being given the white powder in organic qualitative analysis or inorganic qualitative analysis, the first thing what everyone used to do is just keep it on. Try everyone try to taste it, thinking that it must be glucose. So it shouldn't be the case. Not every white solid substance is glucose. So do not taste any chemicals. Wash your hands with soap and water before you leave the lab. Definitely, while and this rule applies if you have been wearing gloves, no matter what happens. But yes, washing your hands with soap and water is the best practice in order to avoid any sort of laboratory accidents. Now, this particular picture, what you are able to see, you may be able to correlate it with this particular animated picture is the hairs are loosened up and they are not been tied, and here is the Bunsen burner. So definitely it will catch fire and the burning hair really stinks. So knowing the safety equipment, yes, there should be all these setups should be very much furnished in any of the lab. Eye wash fountain, the safety shower, the fire extinguisher should be there, emergency exit map should be there so that the students or the lab attendants in any case of accident should rescue themselves like this. Working outside, yes, in normal hours and at the weekends also should be discouraged. But this is for the school students, you can make it, and for the undergraduates and the postgraduates. But for the research students, yes, you may you considering the length of experimental work, they are permitted. But yes, not no single one has to work alone there in the laboratory. So don't work alone in the laboratory. Just in case if anything goes wrong, you must be able to report the injury or the accident, so that and to save your own life. So why lab safety is so much important? Because uh, by obeying the laboratory safety rules and following the symbols, definitely the students do not injure themselves, and nor they might be injuring their lab mates. So this is the laboratory safety rules, which I'll be moving a bit quicker, that because showing the pictures, you will be able to correlate what I have um, discussed till now. Wearing protective clothing, that is PPE, personal protective equipment, aprons, you may see the goggles, gloves, lab coats, and the shoes. Uh, yes, here you can find out all these things which have been worn very much properly while performing the experiment. Once this has been done, yes, like the footwear plays a very important role. This picture shows a very wrong use of footwear while performing the experiment. While the footwears what you use should be closing your feet throughout. So this is very much important. Your foot protection is very much important. Leggings and all should not be uh, encouraged, however, but yes, no open skin should be seen. Yes, this particular slide shows you an example of suitable footwear which may be used while performing the experiment, and also some of the examples of unsuitable footwear which are to be discouraged while performing an experiment in the laboratory. Yes, this is one of the picture which has been put forth by Northwestern University, Evanston, Illinois. Result of improper footwear in a laboratory caused this kind of severe skin disease, and which was very much painful. Yes. In addition to this, laboratory safety rules also tells about the jewelry and the kind of loose clothing what you should not encourage to wear. Yes, avoiding the mobiles, which is the most commonistic practice nowadays, which has been observed while performing the experiment, is that either like you talk on mobile first and then you keep it on a silent mode or whatever, but then avoiding this kind of objects like ranging from pencils to cell phones to door handles while wearing gloves is very much good. Now, pencils, labels, as I mentioned, we have a habit of chewing the other materials also, which should not be practiced. Now, here, Bunsen burner, when it is not being used, when the experiment is over, should be put off to avoid any sort of uh, accidents. If your hairs are a bit longer, they need to be tied and to minimize the fire hazard. The laboratory, yes, do not eat or drink anything in the laboratory, which is not recommended as such, because you may never be knowing what sort of chemicals are there and how good they react with your food items, which enters into your digestive system and may show some adverse effect onto your digestive system. In addition to this, yes, protect your hands safely and in every way wash your hands thoroughly. Handle all glassware following wearing gloves, probably the nitrile gloves you use it, and have a practice of using tongs to handle the glassware. So these are few of the laboratory safety rules. In addition to this, electrical safety, not to have like not to plug in or plug out when you're wet, or once you are doing it, please make sure that it is away from water. Now, this is the practice of but commonest practice which the students fail to do is instead of placing the finger or the palm onto the beaker, we should never be inhaling the chemical directly. It is not been it is not an healthy practice because you may go faint if the smell or the odor is too strong. Laboratory safety rules. In no all cultures should be handled. Yes, those who are dealing with the biological practicals, definitely they need to handle all their cultures in a proper systematical way. You cannot leave those potential pathogenic cultures as and when on the platform, and all the liquid cultures should be stacked into a test tube rack. Yes. In addition, this is the 12th number that is the most practiced and unavoidable thing. What the students do is once they are not being attended seriously by the lab technicians or the lab in charges, they try to play some jokes or they try to play some pranks uh, in the laboratory, which is not at all good. Uh, Yes, keep all non-essential books and clothing away from the work area. Yes, this is the most correct way, that using or wiping out the bench top downs or the platforms with disinfectant before and after your work has been complete is the most healthiest and the correct measure while obeying the lab safety rules. Similarly, disposing of the waste product according to the instructions given, that specific dust garbages are to be discarded in specific dustbins only, is a very healthy practice to be maintained. Report all accidents, no matter how minor to how major it is, to your supervisor or to lab technician, because you may never know that gradually it may lead to a major one as well. So lab safety equipment, again, eye shower and safety shower is there. Um, Yes, this kind of symbols you might have seen if your laboratory is well equipped with same this kind of eye wash or safety shower. You just have to pull down this and open the tray. Once you do it, yes, onto the second slide you can see here the shower of to wash your eye comes down, and where you just have to bend yourself a little and you can wash your eyes there. Same way, the same way, the moment you drip off the safety shower knob, the shower from here will start. Yes. Now the lab safety, the fire blanket must be there, the fire extinguishers must be there. In addition to this fire safety, I'm very much sure that none of us would be knowing how to use the fire extinguisher. If any of one of the participants are knowing how to use the fire extinguisher, I highly appreciate them. Now, fire extinguishers are of two types. The one which is labeled as ABC, and the another is labeled as only D. Now D is labeled for the metals, for like it's only to be used for combustible metal fires, whereas for ABC it is a dry powder which is to be used, and at every 50 feet, within 50 feet of every point, it is to be installed. So this is the fire extinguisher, and it follows a simplest way. It follows or it obeys a shortcut, an abbreviated form of
Dr. Kiran,
PASS. Yes,
sorry to interrupt you.
uh,
We will need to wind up in 5 minutes so that we can
yes,
have
yes,
10 minutes for question and answers.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, yeah, please,
Yeah.
please, please
So,
continue.
so like pull, aim, and squeeze, and uh, weak. Then you have biological. Biological safety levels, again comprising of BSL 1, 2, 3, 4. The one being at the lowest risk microbes, and gradually it is to be at the high risk. It has to be they like BSL 1 you can facilitate at the open bench top, but yes, gradually when you go to BSL 2, BSL 3, BSL 4, you can see the difference in the wearing setup, see how critically everyone is dealing with protecting themselves by wearing different kind of PPE. Now everyone is responsible for lab safety, not at all. Why? Because everyone is to be has the right to protect himself. So just in case if you come across any injuries of burn, then you need to splash of water. For cuts, yes, you need to have a band-aid. For eyes, you need eye splash. So this is how you are supposed to obey. So are your experiments safe? Yes, you need to be, the teachers should be defining those experiments and how, considering the laboratory constraints, you need to have it. And then everyone has to follow the chemical hygiene plan to obey the laboratory safety. These are few of the guidelines for the students which I have explained already in the previous slides, not to eat and behave properly, and be alert in the laboratory, do not attempt any unauthorized activities, report any accidents to the teachers. Similarly, there are several guidelines proposed for the teachers also to define their practicals and to wear, how to insist the students to wear proper PPE kits and all in order to maintain the laboratory safety. So guideline for the panel chairperson, that is the higher competent authority to have a track on all this kind of laboratory safety measures which the students, including the lab technician, the lab in charges, they take into consideration while the students they do the practical. Same way, these are the several slides where you can have the risk assessment or the laboratory safety rules which you can learn. Now these are the safety guidelines. Now what is wrong in this picture? You are supposed to let me know. This person is fixing the plug in, but in wet condition, which is incorrect. This where what is wrong in this particular picture is placing the test tube in a wrong angle so that it will damage just in case if the chemical once heated up pops up, it will damage its lab mate. The third one is inhaling the chemical directly, having without placing hand over to the particular beaker. Now here having practicing eatables in the laboratory while performing the experiment is again incorrect way. Now disposal. I'll take only 2 minutes to complete this. Now disposal is, as I mentioned, correct thing to be disposed in correct dustbins only. You cannot have anything disposed in any of the disposable or dustbins. You cannot do that. Yes, yes, you can see here, this kind of dustbins are to be practiced where paper without any chemical residues to be discarded. These are the kind of dustbin which I'm very much sure that only few of them might have seen it, is where you can only discard the broken glasses. And this is the kind of white bucket, a hard white bucket where the hazardous chemical waste can be discarded. Yes, this kind of glass broken, you can see here it is labeled it as no. That means you cannot discard here, but yes, you can discard in this kind of dustbin. Now, how to be a good lab citizen? You need to obey the 7 habits. Yes, be prepared before you walk into the lab. Make it very clean, neat work area. Avoid mobile phones or earbuds so that you can hear important announcement or in case of any emergency. Do not apply makeup, chapstick or lotions. Do not ingest any food items. Return materials onto their proper places. And again, before you leave, make your lab very much clean, neat, and orderly. So this is how it has to be practiced. Do not block this wash area. Do not keep anything lying on the floor as such. Do not keep this wire dangling like this. Do not keep the laboratory platform untidy. Always remember that the lab is a place for a serious work and not for entertainment. And careless behavior may endanger yourself or others. So based on this, at the end of this module, today's module or talk, participants, I am very much hopeful that they will be able to take this messages, that at least read label on the container of the chemicals, read MSDS, handle chemicals and equipments with care, use protective clothing, dispose of the waste judiciously, and remember the emergency procedures. These are few of the websites related to the laboratory safety measures which I have referred to. And yes, finally, a special thanks to the coordinators, Dr. Sadafara and Dr. Sheetal, to Dr. Anish, Principal, School of Sciences, and PT Savani University. So thank you very much. Probably I'm on time to complete this. So now the session, I request anyone of the session is open for questioning. So in case if you wish to ask me anything related to laboratory safety measures, you may ask, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ketan, to complete it on time. And I request all the participants to please ask questions in the chat box. Let us have more and more questions in this session. Please ask more and more questions. Let us have a dynamic session, dynamic question answer session. Please ask more and more questions. I request all the participants. I think the session was so informative in itself that there are no doubts, Dr. Ketan. Your explanation was so good that all the participants have enjoyed a lot and they are totally clear about the topic now. So they don't have any question. There was one question that I saw by Dr. Ramesh Muladi that fire extinguisher is required in lab.
Yes, absolutely. Whichever lab you deal with, either physical lab or inorganic lab, organic lab, fire extinguishers are needed. And fire extinguishers commercially, which have been sold out, I'm talking about in India or in Gujarat, they come up with the lifetime. Okay, for example, if you have seen my slide, the fire extinguishers are of two types, ABC, one type, and the other one is D type. Now, D type is never been practiced or never been used in the academics or some sort of small laboratories. It has to be, it is generally seen in the big industries or R&D labs. ABC, what we use it here in the laboratories of or the institute or universities, they come up with lifetime, and when you spray it, definitely they a white powder has been sprinkled out, which it's not the water which comes out, but it's the white powder which sprinkles off, and it then extinguishes the fire. But if its lifetime gets over, and if its validity gets over now, every 1 year you need to renew it and refill that 1 year, and some of them they come up with 2 years warranty. So after every 2 years of it, you need to refill it, and you need to refill those cylinders back to so that they can be properly used if required. So yes, in any of the laboratories you have to use the fire extinguishers.
Sir, there is one more question by Dr. Rajiv Guru, and I am also quite in the same, I do have a same question. Sir, apart from annual training sessions for lab safety for students, do you think there should be sudden mock drills made compulsory for students and supervisors?
Pardon, can you repeat that once again?
Sir, apart from annual training sessions for lab safety for students, do you think there should be sudden mock drills made compulsory for students and supervisors?
Yes. Based on this, now if you see the IITs and several ICERs and IISc syllabus, what they do is as they are practicing the semester system, every semester through the competent authority, they have this kind of what you say in school days. If you remember, a surprise test used to be there. Likewise, they are now practicing this kind of test where whether the students are being very much serious about all these kind of lab issues, lab safety measures or not. So definitely, it is needed. It is needed. But the miserable part is not everyone wants it because it's again a costly affair, but not at the risk of the student and not at the risk of anyone's life. Uh, I think it must be practiced, yes, for sure.
There is one more question, sir, from
Yes.
Sapna Pal. That
Mm.
is there any body? I think she is asking about any government body. Is there any government body that can check the laboratory practices in India or can have a check on them?
Yes, there are several agencies. Once you set up your laboratory, or if you are planning to construct a new laboratory, There are several agencies, like one of them, I can give an example from Godrej also. There are several analysts, what you say as expert members. They do visit, and just like if I'm supposed to construct a new bungalow or so, I need an architecture for proper infrastructure planning. Same way for laboratory designing, for perfect having all these things. Uh, yes, there are several analysts who designed the laboratory, and one of the companies, Godrej, who has this kind of expert members in their team who can be approached for while designing your laboratory and so. So yes, they do that. But the minimum conditions, yes, no doubt on payable basis. But yes, they then once they approve it, the laboratory what they have approved is at the best level.
Sir, I do have one question now. That just like as you said in the very beginning, that laboratory safety is something very important, and generally we ignore that. So, do you
Yes.
think we should introduce this at the very early stage to students, like in eighth or ninth standard, so that before they are into the laboratories and actually performing experiments, they are aware of the hazards and the precautions that can be taken.
See, explaining the hazards and the precautions for chemicals and glassware can be taught, is been taught, I think it should be introduced at the 8th, ninth or higher secondary level, but it always been fruitful if they get exposed to this kind of uh, pra- uh, practicals technically, and when they do get exposed in 11th standard. So yes, a brief exposure of this technicality should be there, should be introduced at the 11th and 12th level. But once when they get a bit aware of the laboratory environment, not even schools are encouraging this, and as a result what happens is few of them they get completely ignored, and that's the thing. Even the colleges they don't like. But now what happens is giving an account to all the recent accidents what have been traced at the university level or at the academic level. The nations have set up, or the ministries have set up the condition that in the semester, at the very beginning of the semester in which they have been enrolled, there is a small session where they are being given emphasis on the laboratory safety measures. So this is how we can encourage the students to become more aware of the laboratory safety measures.
True, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session and a very informative session, as we can already see in the chat messages that people have shared. Uh, so let us end this session. Thank you so much once again for accepting our invitation and for giving such a nice talk in our FDP today. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
sir.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Thank you very much.
yeah. So, participants, with this, let us end our session. And I request all the participants to do fill their attendance sheet before they leave, and make sure that you write the spellings exactly as you want in the certificates. Thank you all. Thank you so much.